Welcome to the math table. In today's lecture, we will review and practice some derivative rules. Let's start with the power rule. So please state the power rule now. Pause the video. The power rule tells us that for any number r not equal to 0, if you're trying to take the derivative of x to the r, the derivative will be r times x to the r minus 1 power. So now let's practice this rule. Take the derivative of the following functions. Pause the video now. Here in this first problem, r is 3 and we need to take the derivative of x cubed with respect to x. This is 3x squared. Here in this next problem, what is r? Well, we can rewrite 1 over the square root of x as x to the negative 1/2 power. So the derivative of this function is negative 1/2 x to the minus 3/2, which we can also write as negative 1 over 2 square root x to the third. Now don't be tricked by this last problem. R is simply root 2. So the derivative of this function is root 2 x to the root 2 minus 1. And that's the final answer. Now let's take a look at the constant rule. The constant rule states that the derivative of the function times a constant is the constant times the derivative of the function. Please, using mathematical notation, express this rule. Please pause your video. So if I have a function f of x and I have a number c, our constant, then the derivative of the constant times the function equals the constant times the derivative of the function. Practice this rule. Pause your video and finish these problems. So the derivative of 2x to the 1/3 is going to be the same as 2 times the derivative of x to the 1/3, which is simply 2/3 x to the minus 2/3. In the second problem, we can write this as minus 2/3 x to the negative 2. If we want to take the derivative, we now have this, which is going to equal 4/3 x to the negative 3. So now the sum rule states that the derivative of the sum is the sum of the derivatives. Please, using mathematical notation, express this rule. Pause the video now. So if I have two functions, f of x and g of x, I can take the sum and ask what the derivative of that resulting function is. The derivative is the derivative of f with respect to x plus the derivative of g with respect to x. So now take the time, pause the video, and calculate the following derivatives. Okay, so the derivative of the first, without further ado, is 2x minus 8x plus 4x cubed. Here you may have noticed that I have x squared and minus 4x squared. We could have written this x squared minus 4x squared as negative 3x squared. Taking the derivative of negative 3x squared would give us the negative 6x as we have here. Now for the second function, it's easy enough to rewrite this function as x to the negative 2 plus pi times x to the negative 1/2. Taking the derivative gives us negative 2x to the negative 3 plus negative pi over 2 x to the negative 3 halves. No need to simplify. This is correct as it stands. You see here, I've used the constant rule. I've used the sum rule. Good.